this is Dodger, and you're watching my show.
3, 2, 1, ready, go!
Can I just say, was not expecting people to get as addicted to Destiny as they are after the expansion. I have so many friends who are like, yo, I just literally can't stop playing Destiny, which is so bizarre that a game like that was able to make such a huge 180. And it's not just because you can do the Charleston, I don't think. I don't even know if this is how you do it. I think it's some of this. So we had a little bit of a goof in the video game journalism world. Any of you who have ever read an article on VG247, you might have seen one about Uncharted 4. But it turned out it was very, very inaccurate for a very, very specific reason. It turned out the person who wrote the article actually played Uncharted 2 and not Uncharted 4, which is like one of those mistakes where when you hear that you're like, how? But I do have to give y'all props. Because rather than just pretending that it never happened and like sweeping it under the rug, taking the article down and being like, what? That never, what do you, huh? Instead, they actually wrote up a full apology. Being like, look, our bad. Somehow there was some confusion there. We thought it was a hands-on with Uncharted 4. I don't know what happened, but that was totally our bad. And some people are looking at this and going, how on earth do you confuse the two, right? Like, Nathan Drake looks so different in 2 and 4. People have seen enough gameplay from 4 by now to see the difference in graphics quality. But again, like, this is Uncharted 2 sort of re-optimized for the PS4, I think is the idea. So I'm sure that it looked better. But for me, like thinking about this from the perspective of somebody who plays lots of games and like snippets of lots of games, right? A journalist in the video game world, I can totally see somebody like that playing a game like Uncharted 2, and maybe they've played it before, but they just don't remember anything about it because they've played a lot of games, and just being like, wow, this feels, man, I feel like I've done all this before. Like, I'm kind of shocked that they haven't really changed anything for Uncharted 4, right? It's just like, no, you silly, sweet, precious bunny, you're not playing Uncharted 4, right? And that might seem like a very big convoluted excuse. But looking at the situation, I can see it happening. Does it mean that it was okay that it happened? No. Because they did, in the article, totally slaughter 4 when it wasn't even the right game. Right? Which is a big problem. So, sucks that it happened. Props to you for apologizing, for formally apologizing and being like, yo, we messed up real big. Sorry about that, because a lot of people would have just pretended that it never happened. In the future, maybe be very careful about that though, huh? We've got a little bit of new information about the Nintendo NX. I think a lot of people have assumed that Nintendo is going to continue on with this course of action of like, you have one major console, and then you have something that acts sort of as a handheld element, right? Like the gamepad for Wii U. Something interesting though, is that it has been confirmed that that's the plan, but there's also speculation based on rumor from Nintendo, I know, that it'll actually have more than 2 devices, at least more than 2 devices, that it could actually wind up being the sort of system where there are lots of different peripherals that all combined create the Nintendo NX, rather than there being like one major system and then a bunch of things that can connect to it, having it be just a series of connectable things, which sounds so messy and weird to me. So like, if it were to be something like that, right, it would probably wind up being a lot of gamepad-like devices that can all connect to each other, but then can also connect to the TV somehow, which is an interesting idea, but I just don't know how somebody would develop for that. Like, there are plenty of people who are developing mobile-type games that you can connect with other people on your phone with or on your tablet with. So building off of that idea, it's not something that's impossible. but to have games that are at the level that Nintendo games are, right? Like, they can be pretty complicated sometimes. And how would you play something that was like a Zelda game that way? I don't know. But again, it might just wind up being, you know, one major console and then maybe multiple game pads. Maybe it's more that sort of an idea, which I could definitely see, because there was a bit of limitation there. What we do know is they have already sent out development kits for the NX to some companies, and if it is going to wind up being more of like a hybrid thing, that could really clean up development in an interesting way, and it could be very forward-thinking rather than as gimmicky, which is what I'm worried could happen if they launch this incorrectly, right? So I guess we'll just wind up seeing. I'm glad that development kits are already going out so that, you know, depending on how weird this is, people can look at it and go, oh, all right, well, let's try to figure out something to do with this. The current NAVI Dota 2 team has decided to disband after a series of failures, which has really shocked a lot of people. It's felt a little bit, I don't know, heartless. Essentially, NAVI has looked at their roster and realized, okay, you know what, this isn't working. So they've decided to completely disband and start fresh with totally new players. And again, to a lot of people looking at that, it's like, man, really? They're just gonna like jettison out their entire team and start with completely new people? Like, there's no one that they want to keep? And sometimes that's just the best way to do it, unfortunately. A lot of articles have made it sound like the NAVI Dota 2 team is just disappearing, i.e. like not going to exist anymore, but that's not the case. They are going to be looking into new people, so they will still be involved in the Dota 2 scene, which makes a lot of sense because before, their team was really great, like one of the best. So, yeah, it would be very silly for them to be like, you know what, we're pulling out of Dota 2 altogether. But they will be starting with a whole fresh squad. I also feel like part of the reason this is happening is not entirely because of NAVI. I think like players like Dendi, there have been rumors for a long time now that Dendi wanted to leave NAVI. So it could be a combination of a lot of things, like people wanting to leave, people wanting to go to other teams, and people who just weren't really pulling their weight, right? And so they just decided, all right, let's start over, everybody go do your own thing. And I know that there are a lot of people who really love specifically Dendi and would like to see him on a different team. So you just might, boys and girls. I think one of the bigger pieces of news from this last week is that Battlefront will not have voice chat in game. You can use, you know, like a third-party app if you're on PC, or you can friend somebody and talk to them that way if you're on a console. A lot of people are not happy about this. Some people are feeling pretty okay with it because in general, it depends on the game and it depends on the community, but sometimes voice chat is not used for anything necessary. Like, I've played plenty of games where the only time I hear someone talking is to tell everybody else that they're doing stupid stuff, right? To be like, God, why did you even do that? It's never... I very, very rarely see voice chat used in a way where it's bettering the team or like trying to get the team all on the same wavelength, right? To like develop a plan. So rarely does that happen. So I think basically they looked at the way that voice chat is typically used. They looked at the fact that a lot of people have negative experiences with voice chat and decided, you know what, if you really want to use it, then go for it, but we're not going to offer you that capability within the game. I don't think that would be as much of an issue if they weren't developing game modes that were specifically like team strategy based, right? Because there are plenty of games that you can play and plenty of modes that you can play where it's just like, you're on a team, but you're basically on your own, right? You're running in there, you're trying to kill as many dudes as you can, somebody's gonna shoot you eventually, and it's like, oh well, I'm part of a group of many, right? But if it's more of like a small team trying to strategically win, those are the situations in which you need voice chat if you're really making an effort, right? Splatoon, I think, has been frustrating for people who are really good at it because the actual ranked mode of that game, again, you don't have any voice communication. So when you try to make some sort of an effort to push in a specific direction, it's hard because you can't talk to each other. So I guess what I'm saying is, I see both sides. I don't like that if you are the sort of person who really wants to develop a strategy, you're going to be forced to friend someone in order to talk to them on console. There are plenty of great third-party apps for that on PC, so that's like not a big deal. But, you know, on consoles, it's a bit more involved. So, we'll see. Some people are totally cool with it, and some people are very not cool with it, and I guess it'll really, like I said at the very beginning, it'll really depend on how the community develops, and whether or not it's the sort of community that wants to do really good at the game, or the sort of community that just wants to tell each other that they're bad, right? Anybody who plays Ark Survival Evolved, you can finally breed in that game. Oh my gosh. Now there have been mods for this in the past, but you haven't been able to like breed, right? Like dodos can have eggs, but you can't hatch the egg, right? It's that sort of a situation. There are plenty of dinosaurs that can have eggs, but you can't hatch them. Now you're gonna be able to hatch them, and you can breed your dinos together, and you can be like, oh my gosh, I've leveled up this Bronto, and this Bronto has really cool coloring, so maybe if they have a baby together, then their baby will be super dope. But one thing that they were saying in their announcement was like, this isn't gonna be easy, right? These dinosaurs are gonna have these babies, they're gonna have like little eggs. You have to make sure that nobody takes the egg or destroys the egg. You have to protect it. And then once it hatches, you have a baby dino that could also easily be killed or eaten. So it's gonna be a lot of work if you want to specifically try to be a breeder in the game. I would love that job. That sounds so fun to me. Like, thinking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been training for this my whole life. I've been breeding chocobos my whole life. Let's do this. I'm so jazzed.
I just think it would be really cool. Like, you could be like, oh, you two together make a really cute baby, and you two together
will make a really buff baby, right? But it would really suck. Like, it'll be very rewarding and also very heartbreaking, because if to have an egg, right? It hatches, and the baby is like, dope, and then it dies. That would be the saddest thing in the world. So I'll have to be really careful. I'll have to make, like, a super enclosed space for them. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so fun. I can't wait. I can't wait. Ah! Ark just keeps getting cooler and cooler, guys. Honestly, if you've ever been like slightly interested in playing that game, they just keep adding more and more and more stuff. And I think Dodo Rex is gonna be in it for like a Halloween update. So I can have a giant dodo. And as a final bit of news, guys, Cube World is not dead. What? So when Cube World first came out in alpha, a lot of people spent like 20 bucks to play this game thinking that it was going to be, you know, constantly updated. Originally when people started touching it, they were like, this is super cool. Like, this could be a really, really cool game. And then the developers just went dark. Like, didn't talk to us, didn't say anything, no updates have happened, and everybody's like, what the heck? We paid 20 bucks for a game that we thought you guys were gonna update, and we haven't heard anything from you. Like, is the game dead? Apparently not. There were lots of tweets that went out that had lots of pictures of new things that are happening. They're adding in factions, good and evil factions. They've got some new songs, lots of new stuff that they've been working on. Apparently what happened, which is like frustrating on two levels. So apparently what happened is that whoever is heading up this whole process was very much affected by negative feedback and just didn't want to communicate because they wanted to distance themselves from all of the feedback and be able to just be creative and do their thing, which is fine. But the thing is, like, with indie games, I think right now we can all come to a consensus, right? That the only thing we want in the world, the only thing that we want in the whole wide world is communication. Like, that's all it takes. If a game is taking a long time, that's fine. We've dealt with games that have a very long development process. But, like, for us to put money out for an alpha, being led to believe like this is $20 that's going to get me a situation where I experience updates as they happen because you will continue to work on the game, to like spend that money and then hear nothing, have nothing new to experience is really frustrating as a consumer. And like, I get it. I get that a lot of times creators, like creative people, need to distance themselves from people who are telling them that they're doing it wrong, right? Like need to just be able to create the game that they want to create, which is fine, but we need to hear back. Like, we need to know that you're still making this game, because otherwise it's, in our minds, it's become a failure, right? So to hear about it again is like, oh, that's cool. That game isn't dead. That's awesome. But at the same time, we're going, where have you guys been, though? Like, why didn't we hear anything about, like, when everybody has been on the internet going, I guess Cube World is dead, why was there nobody there running point like, it's not dead, we're still working on, it's just, sorry. Right, like, even a sorry is fine. So yeah, there's a bunch of tweets for you guys to look at if you're interested in Cube World. There's a lot that's been going on, so that's exciting, but hopefully they'll see that people respond really well to just being informed, and that they'll be better about that in the future, because that would be amazing. That would be so great. But anywho, that's been my show. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a positive or a negative response, feel free to leave it in my comment section. And if you would like to have coffee with me, you can click wherever I put the annotation and it'll take you to my other channel. But otherwise, I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I will talk to you again next time. Okay, bye-bye. Mwah.